From bat splinters into the neck to bones literally coming out of the leg, in this video, we're looking at the worst injury for all 30 MLB teams. Brandon Webb, a true ace for the Diamondbacks, dominating hitters with a sinker. Before his injury, Webb won the Cy Young Award in 2006, finished up as a runner-up in 2007 and 2008. Oh, and he led the league with 22 wins in 08 as well, boasting a career ERA of 3.27. But in 2009, on opening day, he pitched just 4 innings, and what began as stiffness quickly escalated, led to multiple surgeries, including a major procedure in August of 2009. And sadly, Webb never recovered. Despite attempts to return, he never pitched again in the majors after 2009. Zips projected a pretty dominant career for Webb had he stayed healthy, but his career, once so promising, abruptly cut short. Michael Soroka was a rising star for the Atlanta Braves. Heading into the 2019 season, he was the number 3 prospect in the Braves minor league system, number 31 overall on the MLB Top 100 prospect list. He had a stellar 2.68 ERA and 174.2 innings pitched in his 2019 rookie season and earned an All-Star selection. Meanwhile, he finished 6th in Cy Young Award voting and 2nd in Rookie of the Year voting. But disaster struck in 2020. Soroka tore his right Achilles tendon just 3 starts into the season, and despite extensive rehab, he retore the same Achilles in 2021 while walking to the clubhouse. Soroka said of the moment, "No doubt, one of the hardest moments of my life." These injuries kept him off the mound for the better part of 3 seasons, and he's faced numerous setbacks in his recovery. His promising career had been derailed, leaving Braves fans wondering what could have been had he remained healthy. Brian Roberts was a standout second baseman for the Baltimore Orioles, known for his speed, batting, and in 2005, Roberts was having an incredible season, hitting .314 with 18 home runs, 27 stolen bases, and a 139 OPS plus. During this age 27 season, Roberts saw his first All-Star selection and got some down-ballot MVP votes, finishing 18th. Tragically though, his season was cut short by a gruesome elbow injury. In September, after a collision at first base with the Yankees' Bubba Crosby, he dislocated his elbow, he tore a tendon and a ligament. This required surgery and extensive rehab, and Roberts returned to play in 2006, hitting .286 in 138 games, albeit with a 96 OPS plus. Roberts went on to play until 2014, but injuries plagued his later years. For the Boston Red Sox, we're going to get 2 spots here, given how similar the injuries were. First up, Tony Conigliaro was an emerging star for the Red Sox in the 1960s, leading the league with 32 home runs at just 20 years old. By the age of 22, he was the youngest American League player to hit 100 homers. But in 1967, a fastball hit Conigliaro in the face, causing a broken cheekbone, a dislocated jaw, and severe damage to his retina. This horrific injury sidelined him for over a year, and despite a brief comeback, he never fully regained his vision or his all-star form. Tony recounts, "A couple of inches higher and I'd have been killed," Tony told Sports Illustrated. Later on, some of my teammates told me they thought I was dead. Lying there with a horrified group gathered around him, Tony said a prayer. "God, please don't let me die right here in the dirt at home plate at Fenway Park." The injury was so severe that he was actually administered the last rites. And after a lengthy process, he made a brave return in 1969, hitting 20 home runs, but he was never the same. Persistent vision problems, subsequent injuries plagued him, and he retired at the age of 30. Another Red Sox player, Bryce Flory, faced a similar traumatic injury in 2000 when he was struck in the face by a line drive. The impact resulted in multiple facial fractures, a shattered orbital socket, and significant vision loss. Flory underwent extensive surgeries and rehab, but struggled to return to his previous level of performance, pitching just 8.2 innings the following season with an 11.42 ERA, ultimately leading to his retirement. And a quick pause right here. If you like this kind of content, consider subscribing. I'm on a goal of 1,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching. On to the next one in Chicago. And this one is one of the most heartbreaking what-ifs in baseball history. This is the story of Mark Prior and Kerry Wood of the Chicago Cubs. 2003 was a magical season for Chicago, who were in the midst of their 95th year of their championship drought. But Prior and Wood were leading the Cubs rotation and sparking dreams of a dynasty. Prior finished the season with an 18-6 record and a 2.43 ERA. He also led the majors with 7.4 WAR, finishing 3rd in Cy Young Award voting. Kerry Wood was equally impressive, posting a 3.2 ERA, striking out 266 batters. The season ended following the infamous Steve Bartman incident, but the future was bright. But in 2004, things took a drastic turn. Prior suffered an Achilles injury and later a severe shoulder injury from a collision, leading to multiple surgeries. His career was plagued by further and further injuries, and he never pitched again in the majors after 2006. Wood's career was also marred by injuries. After the stellar 2003 we talked about, he dealt with triceps and shoulder issues, leading to surgeries and a transition to the bullpen. Despite some success as a reliever, he never regained his dominant starting form and retired in 2012. The injuries to these two aces not only ended their potential careers together, but also dashed the Cubs' hopes of a sustained period of dominance. Next up is Chad Kreuter. He was a dependable catcher over his 16-year Major League Baseball career. Appearing in 944 games, he posted a slash line of .237, .335, .357, and had a career caught stealing rate of 36%, ranking in the top 5 for caught stealing 5 times. In July 1996, however, Kreuter's career was nearly derailed by a brutal home plate collision with Johnny Damon, resulting in a broken left shoulder. Shortly after that, he suffered internal bleeding from stomach lacerations. Doctors gave him a slim chance of returning to baseball, but Kreuter, the catcher that he was determined to defy the odds. Through tireless rehab, including unique routines like water workouts, Kreuter made a remarkable comeback. He played in 493 games from 1997 to 2003. Eric Davis of the Cincinnati Reds was an electrifying talent in the 1980s, boasting an incredible combination of power and speed. In 1987, he hit 37 home runs and stole 50 bags, demonstrating his potential to become the first 50-50 player in MLB history. From June 1986 to June 1987, he had a 162-game stretch where he hit 49 homers and stole 99 bases, showing he was on his way to redefining the limits of the game. But in 1990, during Game 4 of the World Series, Davis suffered a life-altering injury. Attempting to make a diving catch, he tore his kidney in 4 places, an injury that required surgery and sidelined him for a significant time. Although Davis made a full recovery, he never posted the same numbers again. His career, which could have seen unprecedented achievements, was marred by this injury and others that followed, including a battle with colon cancer in 1997. Ray Chapman was a talented shortstop for Cleveland, known for his excellent defensive skills, a solid batting average of .278. In 1920, he was having a strong season, hitting .303 and being a key player in a tight pennant race. But on August 16th of 1920, Chapman's career and life were tragically cut short. Facing the New York Yankees in front of 21,000 fans at the Polo Grounds, Chapman was struck in the head by an errant spitball from submariner Carl Mays after leading off in the 5th. Eventually, he was able to get to his feet with the aid of 2 teammates, and he walked across the infield, but he lost consciousness, and 2 teammates had to carry him into the clubhouse. Chapman was taken to the St. Lawrence Hospital, a half-mile from the ballpark, for x-rays, but the impact was so severe that it fractured his skull. In St. Lawrence Hospital, he died the following morning. This incident remains the only on-field fatality in Major League Baseball history and actually led to the ban of spitballs after the 1920 season. For the Colorado Rockies, Troy Tulowitzki was having an insane 2014 season, batting .340, .432 OBP with 21 home runs and a .170 OPS by mid-July. He was on track for one of the best seasons of his career and of baseball in history. But on July 19th, Tulowitzki injured his hip while running out a ground ball. The injury required season-ending surgery to repair a torn labrum in his left hip. This injury, obviously a major setback, right? Despite a strong start, Tulowitzki's 2014 season ended prematurely. He struggled with injuries for most of his career, and although the Rockies would finish with just 66 wins, we all would have loved to see how the season would have played out. He was traded the following year to the Toronto Blue Jays during the 5th season of a 10-year, $157.75 million contract.
That'd be a good look for you, Joe.
Yeah, right.
No, really. And he right by him.
Yeah, he cannot catch up with his fastball as Sheffield could.
Now, our radar gun said 103.
The story of Tigers' Joel Zumaya burst onto the scene in 2006, dazzling fans with 100-mile-per-hour fastballs, and at that time, that was crazy, hitting 103 on the gun as a 21-year-old rookie. That season, he saw a 1.94 ERA and struck out 97 batters in just 62 games. And eventually, the Tigers went on to the World Series. But his career littered with random and bizarre injuries. Zumaya missed part of the 2006 ALCS due to a wrist injury caused by playing the video game Guitar Hero. In 2007, he ruptured his tendon in his throwing hand and later separated his AC joint while moving boxes in his attic. In 2010, he suffered a terrifying injury when he fractured his elbow mid-pitch. All these injuries over and over prevented him from ever realizing his potential. He ended up missing the entire 2011 season and signed a one-year deal with the Twins in 2012, but ended up needing Tommy John surgery before the season started. Numerous comeback attempts, 6 surgeries, Zumaya's promising career cut short, and he never pitched again in the MLB after hurting his elbow in 2010.
Today, as we prepare for baseball, all of our thoughts are on James Rodney Richard, who suffered a possible stroke. His once brilliant future right now very much in doubt.
Another one of baseball's great what could have been stories. J.R. Richard was one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball in the late 1970s. He had a blazing fastball, intimidating presence on the mound, and by 1980, he had accumulated a record of 107, 71, and a 3.15 ERA with 1,500 strikeouts. However, he began experiencing symptoms like numbness in his arm and fatigue, which were initially dismissed. On July 30th, 1980, while playing catch before a game, he collapsed due to a stroke. He was rushed to the hospital, and doctors had found a blood clot in his neck that could have been fatal. His vision and reflexes severely affected, ending his career at just 30 years old. Richard's stroke ended what was shaping up to be a Hall of Fame career, with numbers similar to Jacob deGrom at the same age, 31 season. In 2020, Richard was inducted into the Astros' inaugural Hall of Fame. On May 7, 2023, during a game against the Oakland Athletics, Ryan Yarbrough was struck in the face by a 106.2 mile-per-hour line drive off the bat of Ryan Noda. The impact was severe, causing multiple fractures around his left eye and cheekbone. Yarbrough immediately collapsed on the mound, and the ball ricocheted all the way back to catcher Salvador Perez, who completed the play at first base before rushing to assist his teammate. Despite the severity of the injury, Yarbrough was able to walk off the field with assistance, holding a towel to his face. He was taken to the hospital, where further tests revealed the extent of his injuries. He would spend about 2 months on the IL before returning to the mound. Most of you know the next guy for his managerial antics, including coming back to the dugout in disguise following an ejection.
Clearance call, and he's gone incognito. Sorry, Skip, we got you.
But Bobby Valentine was involved with one of the most gruesome injuries in baseball that occurred in 1973. He was a young, promising player for the California Angels, known for his speed and versatility. But on May 17, 1973, while playing center field, Valentine chased a deep fly ball hit by Oakland's Dick Green. In an effort to make a spectacular catch, he leapt towards the chain link fence, we're talking majors here, covered with a loose canvas tarp. His spikes got caught in the fence, causing his leg to snap in 2 places. The injury was so severe that bones were visibly protruding, and Valentine was immediately stretchered off the field. Before the accident, let's not forget, he was batting over 300 and seemed set for a breakout season, but his speed was compromised. He was plagued by recurring pain and complications from the injury, including a permanent bend in his leg. Valentine went on to have a successful career as a manager and broadcaster, but the memory of that fateful day remains a significant part of his story that, before researching this, I had no idea. For the Los Angeles Dodgers, now one of the wildest injuries in baseball, involving catcher Steve Yeager. It was September 6, 1976, during a game against the San Diego Padres. Steve Yeager was on the on-deck circle when a piece of Bill Russell's broken bat flew towards him. The jagged end of the bat impaled Yeager in the neck, and the situation was so dire that blood was squirting out of his neck, and initially, it seemed like he might not survive. Quick action by medical personnel and Dodgers trainer Bill Buehler saved Yeager's life. Remember that name too. He was rushed to the hospital, where surgeons removed not 1, not 2, but 9 splinters from his neck from a 3-inch deep wound. The injury came so close to major arteries in his windpipe, and it could have resulted in a fatal outcome. Remarkably, he returned to the field 19 days later, but it has a happy ending. Following this incident, Yeager and Buehler, the trainer who saved him, invented a throat guard for catchers, which is now standard equipment, ensuring better protection for players. And Yeager's career, it continued for several more years, and he even shared the World Series MVP award in 1981.
Oof. Oh, wow. Goodness. Right, it looked like the cheek underneath the left eye.
On September 11, 2014, during a game against the Milwaukee Brewers, Giancarlo Stanton was struck in the face by an 88-mile-per-hour fastball from pitcher Mike Fiers. The impact caused multiple facial fractures, dental damage, and lacerations, requiring immediate medical attention and stitches. Stanton was carted off the field and taken to a local hospital, effectively ending his season where he was a top contender for NL MVP. He had 37 home runs and 105 RBIs. That season, he finished second in MVP voting and only played in 74 games the following following year. But in 2017, his last season with the Marlins, he finished as the NL MVP with a monstrous 59 home runs, 132 RBIs, and a 169 OPS plus. Admittedly, as a Brewers fan here, this one is for the timing and of the duration that I think it affected his play. On September 10, 2019, during a game against the Miami Marlins, Yelich fouled an 80-mile-per-hour pitch off his right knee in the first inning. He immediately fell to the ground, unable to continue. Medical staff quickly attended to him, and it was later confirmed that he had fractured his right kneecap and ended his season. If you recall, 2018, Yelich was the MVP, and at the time of the injury in 2019, he was having another MVP caliber season, leading the league in on-base percentage and slugging percentage. He had 44 home runs, 97 RBIs, and 30 stolen bases, making him a strong contender for back-to-back MVP awards. A major blow to the Brewers, who were in the thick of a playoff race, just 1.5 games out of a wildcard spot. Our boy Yelly struggled to regain his back-to-back MVP-esque performances for the following 3 years. But here, in 2024, he's found a groove again and should be an all-star starter, finishing top 7 in the MVP voting 7 times, and a Silver Slugger and Gold Glove 6 times each. Kirby Puckett for the Minnesota Twins was one of the best baseball players of his generation. But on September 28th, 1995, during a game at the Metrodome, Puckett was struck in the face by a fastball from Dennis Martinez. The impact shattered his jaw and blurred his vision, marking the last pitch Puckett would face in his career. And despite efforts to return the next spring, Puckett woke up unable to see out of his right eye, and doctors had diagnosed him with glaucoma, a condition that causes damage to the optic nerve and can lead to vision loss. In the midst of a Hall of Fame career, Puckett was forced to retire in July of 1996 at the age of 35. But he left behind a legacy as one of the baseball's most beloved players, known for his infectious smile and a remarkable talent. For the New York Mets, we're showing 2 different moments, one of them being the most frightening collision in MLB history that involves outfielders Mike Cameron and Carlos Beltran. On August 11, 2005, during a game against the San Diego Padres, Mike Cameron and Carlos Beltran collided while chasing a fly ball in right center field. Now imagine, both players sprinting at full speed, each laid out for the ball, did not see each other. The impact was so severe that it left Mike Cameron with multiple fractures of both cheekbones, a broken nose, and a concussion. Beltran himself suffered a concussion and a minor facial fracture, but was fortunate to avoid more serious injuries. Beltran said of the injury, though, "I just feel happy that I'm alive." Cameron was taken off the field on a stretcher, and he underwent successful surgery to repair his injuries. Cameron would miss the remainder of the season, and Beltran for himself, he was sidelined for a while, but returned to play later that season. For the second, or I guess third, Mets injury on May 17th, 2021, during a game against the Atlanta Braves, Kevin Pillar was struck in the face by a 94-mile-per-hour fastball from pitcher Jacob Webb. The impact caused multiple nasal fractures, resulted in a bloody scene on the field, just dripping. PR showed incredible toughness by walking off the field under his own power, but obviously requiring medical attention and surgery to repair the fractures. Remarkably, just 2 weeks after the injury, he returned to the Mets lineup. Now one of the most infamous injuries in baseball history. Mickey Mantle of the New York Yankees tore his ACL during the 1951 World Series. Buckle up for this one, folks, because I had no idea. Mantle was a promising rookie for the New York Yankees in 1951, known for his speed and power. In Game 2 of the World Series against the New York Giants, Mantle was playing right field when Willie Mays hit a ball to right center field. Mantle, sprinting towards the ball, heard Joe DiMaggio call him off, and as Mantle tried to stop, his cleats caught on a poorly covered drain in the outfield. He fell awkwardly, tore his ACL, and damaged his knee severely. There's actually reports out there, in my research, found that although he did have surgery on the knee, there were no established procedures to fix a torn ACL at the time. So he could have been playing with a torn ACL for the rest of his career. Despite the severity of the injury, Mantle continued to play, enduring constant pain and limited mobility. His speed and overall performance significantly impacted, yet he managed to put up Hall of Fame numbers his entire career. He continued to play until 1968 and went on to be a 20-time All-Star, where he won 7 rings with a lifetime .298 batting average and winning 3 MVPs. But still, people wonder if he could have been the greatest baseball player of all time if he hadn't injured his knee. On August 17, 2021, during a game against the Chicago White Sox, Chris Bassett was struck in the head by a 100.1 mile per hour line drive drive off the bat of Brian Goodwin. The ball hit Bassitt on the right side of his face, causing him to immediately collapse on the ground, bleeding profusely. And he was quickly attended to by medical staff and taken off the field on a stretcher, leaving players and fans in shock. Bassitt was then transported to Rush University Medical Center, where he was diagnosed with a displaced tripod fracture in his right cheek, which would require surgery. But fortunately, he remained conscious throughout the ordeal, and scans showed no signs of a concussion or brain damage. His vision remained intact, and Bassitt expressed gratitude for the support he received and was determined to return to the mound. In 2011, on October 7th, in the final play of Game 5 of the NLDS against the Cardinals, Philadelphia Phillies first baseman Ryan Howard grounded out and tore his Achilles tendon while running to first base. Prior to this injury, Ryan Howard was a dominant force, boasting 6 consecutive seasons with at least 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. It was a franchise record at the time. He was Rookie of the Year in 2005, MVP in 2006, and finished top 10 in MVP voting for 6 straight years until the injury. After the Achilles tear, Howard never regained his form. He missed significant time in 2012 and struggled with performance and additional injuries in the subsequent seasons. His batting average and power numbers declined, and he was never able to return to his pre-injury dominance. Next, we have the gruesome injury of Pittsburgh Pirates catcher Jason Kendall, which occurred on July 4th, 1999. Jason Kendall was having an outstanding season in 1999. He was batting .332 with 8 home runs and leading the league with a .511 slugging percentage through 78 games. During a game against the Milwaukee Brewers, Kendall attempted to bunt for a hit, and while running to first base, he awkwardly stepped on the side of the bag, causing his ankle to snap and dislocate severely. The injury was so graphic that his bone was literally protruding from his skin, shocking players and fans alike. And this injury obviously could have ended many careers, but not Jason Kendall. Again, catchers are a different breed. He underwent a surgery, an extensive rehabilitation process, and by spring training in 2000, he was back on the field and played 152 games that season, batting .320 with a career-high 14 home runs. Kendall continued to play for another 11 years, maintaining a .288 career batting average and earning 3 All-Star selections. For the San Diego Padres on July 7, 2022, Jerks and Profar collided with shortstop C.J. Abrams while both were attempting to catch a fly ball hit by Tommy La Stella of the San Francisco Giants. Abrams' knee struck Profar's jaw with significant force, causing both players to collapse. And while Abrams got up a few seconds later, Profar remained down in visible pain. He initially tried to walk off the field with assistance, but after a few steps, he actually collapsed. The medical staff tended to him, eventually placing him on a stretcher and taking him off the field. The collision resulted in Profar suffering a concussion and a neck strain, requiring him to be hospitalized overnight for further evaluation. During a game against the Florida Marlins, Buster Posey of the San Francisco Giants was involved in a violent collision at home plate with Scott Cousins. Posey was trying to block the plate when Cousins barreled into him, resulting in a broken leg and torn ligaments in his ankle. He was immediately taken off the field and required surgery, which ended his season. Before the injury, Posey was establishing himself as one of the top catchers in baseball, having won the National League Rookie of the Year award the year prior in 2010. The collision not only impacted his season, but it actually sparked a debate about player safety and led to the implementation of MLB's Rule 7.13, also known as the Buster Posey Rule, which aims to reduce home plate collisions. He would make a strong comeback in 2012, winning the National League MVP award and leading the Giants to a World Series title. In 1997, during a game against the Cleveland Indians, Josias Manzanillo was struck in the groin by a line drive off the bat of Manny Ramirez. Unfortunately, Manzanillo was not wearing a protective cup at the time. The impact so severe it ruptured his testicles, requiring emergency surgery. Despite the severity and pain of the injury, Manzanillo managed to recover the ball and throw the out before collapsing on the field. After undergoing the surgery, he was placed on the 15-day disabled list. He made his return to pitching a month later, but he struggled with performance and psychological impacts of the injury. His career would continue with various teams, but he never fully recovered to the form that he had before the incident. Next up is the career-ending injury of St. Louis Cardinals outfielder Juan Encarnacion, which occurred on August 31st, 2007. During a game against the Cincinnati Reds, Encarnacion was in the on-deck circle when a foul ball hit by teammate Aaron Miles struck him in the left eye. It caused multiple fractures to his eye socket and resulted in the loss of his vision. He was immediately taken to the hospital. Doctors described the injury as one of the worst traumas they had seen, and despite surgery to repair the fractures, his vision did not significantly improve, and he never regained full sight in his left eye. Prior to the injury, Encarnacion was a key player for the Cardinals, having helped them win the World Series in 2006. Encarnacion finished his 11-year career with a .270 batting average to go along with 156 homers, 667 RBIs, and 127 stolen bases. In 1999, during a game against the Texas Rangers, Tony Saunders suffered a horrific injury while delivering a pitch to Juan Gonzalez. As he threw a 3-2 pitch, his left arm snapped with a sound that echoed throughout Tropicana Field. Saunders collapsed on the mound, writhing in pain, and immediately was attended to by trainers and teammates. He was diagnosed with a fracture of the humerus and torn ligaments in his pitching arm. Saunders would attempt a comeback in 2000, but unfortunately, during his 5th rehab start, he broke his arm again in almost the same spot. The second break ended his comeback attempt and his career. In April of 2023, during a game against the Baltimore Orioles, Josh Smith was struck in the face by an 88-mile-per-hour fastball. Smith immediately fell to the ground, bleeding and in visible pain. The medical staff quickly attended to him, and he was taken to a nearby hospital for further evaluation. He would receive 6 stitches on the right side of his face and was fortunate to avoid any fractures or really major structural damage. He cleared concussion protocols and remarkably felt optimistic about his recovery. This dude ended up playing 4 days later. Another significant collision on the list, this time for the Toronto Blue Jays outfielders George Springer and Bo Bichette during the 2022 AL Wildcard game. In Game 2 of the AL Wildcard Series against the Mariners, George Springer and Bo Bichette collided while attempting to catch a shallow pop fly hit by J.P. Crawford. Here's the scene. The collision occurred in the 8th inning, both players running towards the ball, resulting in a violent impact that left Springer on the ground and Bichette shaken. Springer was hit in the head and neck area by Bichette's elbow, causing him to remain down on the field for several minutes before being carted off the field. George Springer suffered a concussion and a shoulder sprain from the collision, which ended his night. Bichette was able to stay in the game, but the collision, here's the scene, allowed 3 runs to score, tying the game at 9-9. The Mariners eventually won 10-9, completing a dramatic comeback and eliminating the Blue Jays from the playoffs. And finally, on August 12th, 2017, during a game against the San Francisco Giants, Bryce Harper was running out a ground ball to first base when he slipped on the wet bag and he hyperextended his left knee. The fall was awkward and violent, and it caused Harper to collapse in pain, being carried off the field. The injury, later diagnosed as a significant bone bruise, but fortunately, there was no ligament or tendon damage. Before the injury, Harper having an incredible season, batting .326 with 29 home runs and 87 RBIs. The injury sidelined him for nearly the remainder of the regular season, but he did return for the postseason where he struggled in the series against the Cubs. This was a major setback for both him and the Nationals. If you liked the video, consider subscribing. I'm on a goal of 1,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.